Story.
The president's plan to balance the budget in 7 years is now on the table in Washington. Hundreds of people are arrested today in a telephone scam all across the country that victimized the elderly. And the extraordinary voyage of the spaceship Galileo.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin in Washington tonight, where the two most important politicians in the country are having a little difficulty focusing on business. The president and the Speaker of the House still need to come to some agreement, and soon, on how to balance the federal budget in 7 years. But the president is somewhat distracted by Bosnia, and the Speaker, Mr. Gingrich, has had his focus pulled by a decision of the House Ethics Committee that there should be a special counsel to investigate him, which is not to say that the budget battle does not rage. First, here's our White House correspondent, Brit Hume.
During a meeting with members of Congress on Bosnia, the president commented briefly on his third budget plan of the year introduced today.
It's mainstream and it's good, and it's a good place to start discussions, and I think that's the attitude they ought to take. And if they have I've made a proposal, now I'd like to see what theirs is.
The new Clinton plan amends but does not drastically change the plan he announced in June. It contains, for example, no added cuts in the growth of either Medicare or Medicaid, the two biggest items in dispute. There is no change in the president's proposed tax cut, which is, however, much smaller than the one the Republicans want. The president does call for about $140 billion in added savings over 7 years, largely by freezing or cutting many domestic programs, by reforming welfare, and by slowing down the growth of such government benefits as farm subsidies and federal retirement pay. It would also reduce the annual cost of living increases in government benefits. The White House concedes this new plan would not balance the budget by the Congressional Budget Office's calculations, which both sides have agreed to use in determining when the budget is in balance. But officials argued that this is a serious offer that should be taken seriously by the Republican Congress.
This is an important step forward. I hope that they will respond in kind so that we can hear from them now as to how they will respond to the concerns about priorities. We have yet to hear from them on those issues.
Republicans, though, were not impressed.
The administration came up to Capitol Hill today and gave us a budget plan that is a minimum $400 billion in the hole.
But would the Congress at least be willing now to pass a temporary spending bill to keep the government open, since the current one expires next week?
This will never happen.
Slim and none.
This isn't going to be pretty, but there's still a good chance of an eventual deal on the budget. The trouble is, nobody wants to give up on anything they don't have to, and that makes for a bitter fight to the end on everything. Brit Hume, ABC News, the White House.
The leader of the Republican Revolution in Washington, House Speaker Newt Gingrich, insisted today that he is gratified and pleased with the vote last night by the House Ethics Committee. That's putting a very positive spin on what the committee decided. It will take no action on 5 of the ethics charges against the Speaker, but the committee will hire a special counsel to investigate a 6th and important one. On Capitol Hill, ABC's John Cochran.
This is not the way Newt Gingrich wanted to end his historic first year as Speaker, with reporters and cameras in pursuit and a special counsel soon to intensify the investigation. Gingrich preferred to talk about the charges the Ethics Committee has already dealt with.
Are you weakened politically? How can you be weakened? How can you be weakened if they dispose of 5 of them unanimously? I think I've been dramatically strengthened.
But on 3 of those charges, the committee criticized Gingrich, especially the $4.5 million book deal he accepted and then, under pressure, rejected. The committee said the deal creates the impression of exploiting one's office for personal gain. And now the special counsel will focus on a course Gingrich taught. The course was supported by tax-deductible contributions from donors like an insurance executive.
Pat Rooney of Golden Rule Insurance Company, and for a couple of minutes he's going to talk to us about...
Gingrich offered contributors like Rooney a platform to advance their views, such as advocating a free market approach to health care. The special counsel must decide whether the course was educational or a political campaign to promote Gingrich and his donors.
The most important issue for the special counsel to address is whether a charity that can receive deductible contributions may be used to circumvent federal election law.
Because Gingrich personifies the Republican Revolution, Democrats have made him their #1 target.
Speaker's path to power was a corrupt mix of these contributions, these hidden expenditures, and these special favors to large donors.
I don't want to say that the Speaker hasn't made some mistakes, some errors in judgment. But the fact of the matter is he's been assaulted with character assassination by David Bonnier and his cronies.
It's not clear whether Gingrich's effectiveness has been hurt on big issues like the budget and Bosnia. But his ethical problems could help Bill Clinton next year by making it more difficult for Republicans to hammer away at his morality. And now, more than ever, Democrats in Congress will try to demonize Gingrich as their best and maybe only hope of regaining control of the House. John Cochran, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
Still ahead, we'll have some of the other news. The Bosnian Serbs in Sarajevo sound off at the peace treaty and at the United States. Michael Jackson is in the intensive care unit. His condition is serious. And the mystery of the $1 million donation.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Panasonic.
While a brother may be hard to propel, the Hoover Power Drive is self-propelled, making cleaning so easy, even a brother could do it.
Hoover, nobody does it like you.
When you go up to Seattle, you find out that Magnolia Ace Hardware makes new ideas a family affair. And your local Ace will give you plenty of ideas on how to save throughout the holidays. It's true, Ace is the place for the helpful hardware folks.
There has been another effort in Washington to cancel U.S. participation in the military mission to Bosnia. And in Bosnia itself, there is considerable determination among some Serbs to have some conditions of the peace agreement changed. Here's ABC's John McCarthy.
While more peacekeepers were arriving at the Sarajevo airport, a mile away, the Bosnian Serbs who live behind barricades in one part of the city were venting their anger at a peace treaty that will put their neighborhood under the control of their bitter enemies in the Bosnian government. Renegotiate the treaty, they demanded, or there will never be peace in Sarajevo.
What was initialed at Dayton will be signed in Paris. There'll be no renegotiation in any way, shape, or form.
But there is concern about what could happen in Sarajevo if tens of thousands of Bosnian Serbs become an angry wave of refugees. Assistant Secretary of State Richard Holbrooke is returning to the region to try to calm jittery nerves. But the biggest case of jitters may be at the White House, where the president is, for the moment, standing very much alone in his determination to send American troops to Bosnia. Today, 186 members of the House, including 13 Democrats, signed a letter to the president, just one sentence long. Quote, "We urge you not to send ground troops to Bosnia." Then one after another, they added their own angry footnotes.
What will we have accomplished after being in there for 1 year except the loss of American lives and the expenditure of funds that we don't have?
And it is extremely difficult to get them out in a timely and honorable way. We must do everything possible to prevent funding before this decision is irrevocable.
Administration officials say there is no wavering in the president's decision to send American troops to Bosnia. No wavering, they say, because he believes it will save lives, and it's the right thing to do. John McCarthy, ABC News, the Pentagon.
Still overseas in France today, the strike by hundreds of thousands of workers in the public sector only gets bigger. Today it spread to the two main Paris airports. And there were enormous demonstrations again over the government's plan to reduce its generous social welfare benefits. And on this 14th day of the strike, the French government has finally agreed to sit down tomorrow, actually, and begin negotiations with some of the unions. Well, this is quite an extraordinary day in space. A mission nearly 20 years in the planning. The Galileo spacecraft has just finished an astonishingly long voyage to Jupiter. Now the question is, will the adventure continue? Here's ABC's Ned Potter.
600 million miles from Earth, tiny Galileo confronted the solar system's greatest giant. Jupiter, 88,000 miles across, with 16 known moons, a planet so huge 140 Earths could fit inside it. 6 years after the spacecraft's launch, anxious engineers could only wait for its signal.
I want to tell you, this is one of the toughest things we've ever done, but we're going to pull it off. I hope we do.
What NASA really hopes to do is invade the most volatile world in the solar system. Jupiter's atmosphere, mostly hydrogen and helium, has winds of 300 miles an hour. Its great red spot is really a hurricane, 3 times the size of Earth, that has raged for at least 3 centuries. Galileo released a 700-pound probe, which today sliced into Jupiter's atmosphere at 106,000 miles an hour, going so fast it would cross the United States in a minute and a half. In the hour before the dense air pulverized it, scientists hoped it would take half a dozen measures of the planet, its chemistry and temperature, maybe even whether there's water in Jupiter's clouds.
What's important to discover is liquid water, because we know that liquid water was extremely important in the formation and evolution of life on Earth.
As the ship neared Jupiter, the planet's immense gravity tripled its speed in a day. In fact, some scientists even say that Jupiter's gravity has helped make our lives possible. Jupiter is so massive that it's drawn in many of the comets and asteroids that otherwise might have crashed to Earth.
All right, we got it.
Late this afternoon, nervous controllers finally got a signal that the probe was sending data from the atmosphere. In the event that Galileo actually finds hints of life on Jupiter or its moons, it would change history. Ned Potter, ABC News.
Well, by contrast, it was a losing day on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrials lost more than 39 points to close at 51.59. On the NASDAQ market, stocks lost 8.5 points. And it was a bad day for con artists who victimized the elderly. We'll have that story in a moment.
What lets you learn about the world in a whole new way? The Intel Pentium processor. It has the power to make PC software come alive with the sights and sounds that take you there, wherever there happens to be. The Intel Pentium processor.
I love these family get-togethers.
I love Grandma's creamy Eagle Brand pumpkin pie.
Me too.
This year she made it with new Eagle Brand fat-free.
Fat-free? No way. It tastes too good. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe next year we can eat it at the grown-ups table.
Hey, look. Mommy'd like this pillow. A bear. Hey, how about a stocking? This bear is nice. Wow, this is pretty. No, bear. My bear.
There are many prescription pain medicines, and a doctor can prescribe any of them. Yet 82% of doctors surveyed have prescribed Arutis. And now, for the first time, it's available in a non-prescription strain. New Arutis KT. It's so potent, just 25 milligrams is as effective as 400 milligrams of Motrin IV, 440 of Aleve, or 1,000 milligrams of extra-strength Tylenol. New Arutis KT, the potent medicine for pain.
Every holiday season at Mailboxes, etc., 2 customers bring in 30 dozen shortbread cookies for us to package and ship for them.
I do most of the cutting, and she does all the finishing touches. And we both watch the oven.
They have to be packaged very carefully.
They don't even jiggle. They don't juggle. They fix them, stabilize them.
They got their all in one piece.
Not even a grain of sugar off.
Depend on Mailboxes, etc. It's not what we do, it's how we do it.
Tonight on Nightline, telephone con artists. They prey on the old and the vulnerable, and they get away with stealing $40 billion each year. What kind of person would do that? You'll meet one on Nightline tonight.
Once again, the federal government is trying to root out con artists who prey on the elderly by telephone. Today, Attorney General Janet Reno announced a sting operation that has resulted in warrants for the arrests of more than 400 telemarketers in 14 states. Here's ABC's Tom Foreman.
Across the country today, lawmen were rounding up hundreds of suspected telemarketing con men, people who they believe in Las Vegas alone bilked 52,000 senior citizens out of $58 million.
The victims targeted by these scam artists are particularly vulnerable, and they are known by these thugs to be so.
Working with senior citizens who agreed to have their calls taped, authorities recorded conversations like this one, in which a 78-year-old Denver woman is promised a fictitious $50,000 cash prize if she will pay the caller $500 to ensure the payment.
Do you want your money, ma'am?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Now, will you cooperate?
I'm trying to.
The woman is hesitant because she's been swindled before. The caller pushes.
I don't care what you've heard on the telephone. I don't care how badly you've been taken advantage. I don't care if you hate me. You've got $50,000. That's the truth.
When the victim still refuses to immediately wire the money, the caller lowers the cost and raises the pressure.
The minimum I'll accept is $100, but I need some cooperation from you. And if I don't get it, you're hurting yourself. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want your winnings?
Of course I want the winnings, but
So now you're going to start crying again and going off on me, right?
there's nothing I can do.
Authorities say the woman on the phone, who wants to remain anonymous, was cheated many, many times out of close to $100,000.
They were so good at what they do that they could persuade her that they were really her friends.
Authorities hope this crackdown will show the con artists for what they really are.
You're going to your grave a loser. A big loser.
And show that the elderly are no longer the easy targets they were. Tom Foreman, ABC News, Denver.
In other news today, it appears that singer Michael Jackson's condition is more serious than first thought. Mr. Jackson collapsed yesterday while rehearsing, and he was taken to a hospital in New York. Today, his wife, Lisa Marie Presley, was among the visitors. His doctors say his condition is serious but stable. We're going to check in briefly with our medical editor, Tim Johnson, who is in from Boston. Dr. Tim, how serious does it sound to you?
Well, in the only press release that they have put out today, they use several words to describe the conditions they are monitoring and treating: gastroenteritis, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, and kidney and liver function. Putting that all together, I think probably what happened is that with gastroenteritis, which is basically synonymous with intestinal flu, he suffered severe fluid loss. That led to dehydration, also loss of electrolytes like sodium and potassium. That in turn caused some problems with his kidneys and his liver, and they are monitoring all of that. Because he was detected quickly and treated vigorously, they're putting in fluid, they're replacing electrolytes. He should be all right in the long run. But I want to make a public health message here, Peter, that in people, especially the old and the young, who are not discovered quickly, who are not treated quickly, this can be a life-threatening condition.
Okay, well, you pretty much answered my question. You sound pretty complicated, but it can be fairly serious.
It can be serious. It can lead, in worst-case scenario, to what's called a shock syndrome that can cause permanent tissue damage and ultimately, in some cases, death. So the bottom line is we should not take dehydration, severe dehydration. We should take it very seriously, treat it quickly, get people who are so affected to competent medical care as quickly as possible.
As always, Tim, thanks very much. When we come back, the envelope with $1 million inside and no return address.
Everybody needs some money sometime. Everybody needs some cash somehow.
Hello? Rita, got your credit card?
I need $500. Now.
I'll call Western Union.
Just call 1-800-CALL-CASH and you can use your credit card to send money from home, anytime, day or night. And that can make everyone sleep easier. Western Union, the fastest way to send money worldwide.
If you're up early enough, does the road to yourself? Driving can actually be fun.
My hot rod days are over, but I'm still more likely to pass than to be passed.
Sometimes on the weekends, my husband and I just like to kind of take off and lose ourselves in the beautiful scenery. If he's driving, west.
That way.
That's very easy. Honey!
Ford Contour, a world car for your world. Well equipped for just $15,165.
You may be taking chances if you don't take a calcium supplement. And it could take 20 years or more to find out you needed one. By then, it may be too late. So which one should you take? Oscal. Compare Oscal to many store brands. Which has been tested and proven effective in clinical studies. Oscal comes from a natural calcium source that retains its natural nutrients. Oscal. Recommended by more doctors. Oscal. And it costs only pennies more a day. Don't take chances. Take Oscal.
Finally, great popcorn from your microwave.
Power Pop.
Presto Power Pop Microwave Multi-Popper. Pops virtually every kernel. Pop with oil, pop without oil. Nothing pops like Power Pop. That's why it's endorsed by Orville Redenbacher. From Presto.
Salad shooter helps you every day.
How about some cheese for your pizza or perfect salad shooter hash browns for breakfast? Vegetables sliced or shredded, and nothing tops a salad like
Salad shooter
Slicer Shredder from Presto.
helps you every day.
Some of America's daytime talk shows are taking more heat today from three influential national figures, former Secretary of Education William Bennett and Senators Sam Nunn and Joseph Lieberman 6 weeks ago called on the producers of what they call trash TV to clean up their act. They decided today it was time to go after their sponsors. Here's ABC's Jackie Judd.
I took my two sons away from him because he's an alcoholic.
The critics are now trying to shame some of America's biggest corporations into ending their sponsorship of the tawdriest daytime talk shows.
It is time for us to hear a few words from our Talk TV sponsors. And those words are citizenship and responsibility.
And if that doesn't happen, the group said consumers should retaliate with a boycott.
The ultimate power of the American public is to stop buying the products of those who are contributing to the erosion of our own society.
According to a monitoring service, the top 5 advertisers will spend more than $65 million on daytime talk shows this year. But several companies say that is not the whole story, that on their own they are dropping shows that have crossed the line of good taste. Without identifying which programs, Procter & Gamble says it recently stopped sponsoring 5 shows. Philip Morris claims it dropped 7, and Mars says it pulled out of 6.
The more vast the reaction to it, the more pressure will be brought upon the corporations, and the corporations will react.
Part of Empower America's campaign to exert pressure on all the sponsors is this commercial.
Now we're going directly to the advertisers.
But don't sit by your set waiting to see it. Empower America says, ironically, some of the very stations that broadcast the controversial talk shows find the commercial too controversial to put on the air. Jackie Judd, ABC News, Washington.
In Tennessee today, a lesson in giving without taking credit. There are a lot of reasons for making charitable donations anonymously. Some donors simply don't want the publicity. Others believe that anonymous giving encourages selflessness. Today we heard about the mystery envelope that arrived at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. Here's ABC's Rebecca Chase.
It arrived at the hospital last week, a plain white envelope postmarked Dallas. At first, the clerk thought it was a piece of junk mail, but then she looked closer. Inside was a piece of paper with a Monopoly game on it, a current promotion at McDonald's, and a winning ticket.
We immediately looked at it and saw it and started counting the zeros, and we realized we had $1 million.
Whoever won the McDonald's ticket sent it anonymously to St. Jude's, a hospital which treats children with life-threatening diseases, such as cancer or AIDS, regardless of whether they can pay.
Somebody won the $1 million Monopoly game at McDonald's, and God bless him, decided to send that money to the children of St. Jude.
Ooh, I got St. Charles.
McDonald's has only issued 3 of these winning stamps. The chance of getting one, 206 million to 1. McDonald's usually forbids the transferring of game pieces, but today they made an exception. A stranger's good luck was turned into a gift of healing.
I think it's good, especially around Christmas.
Hospital officials are calling this a gift from an angel, $1 million present in the true spirit of the season. Rebecca Chase, ABC News, Memphis.
Well, it wasn't easy, but today some rescuers from the Fish and Wildlife Service finally got their manatee. The wayward manatee had snuggled up to a water treatment plant in a bayou near downtown Houston, far away from home. The 10-foot creature was lured out of her hiding place with a salad of romaine lettuce, captured with a net, as you can clearly see, though not with great ease, and then loaded on a truck bound for SeaWorld in San Antonio. There she'll undergo a medical examination and will eventually be released into friendly waters. We'll be back in just a moment.
Something's been overlooked in the design of women's razors. The woman. But there's one razor that adjusts to your legs and underarms, even bikini line. Norelco Silhouette, the first razor designed to shave a woman where a woman shaves.
When I was young, you and Mom made sure I ate right.
Well, you were my little girl.
Well, today we're listening to our doctors and taking better care of our health with Ensure.
Ensure is recommended #1 by doctors as a source of complete, balanced nutrition.
More than a vitamin supplement, Ensure has all the nutrients adults need to help stay healthy, active, be energetic.
Drink Ensure as a meal.
Or in between. Ensure. To your health, Dad.
To our health.
Ensure, recommended #1 by doctors.
Oh, well, I'm the kind of light for your holiday list. I'll help you in so many ways. I'd make the perfect gift, cause I'm the snake light from Black & Decker. I get around, I'm the snake light.
If you've got heartburn, you've got some new choices, Pepcid AC and Tagamet HB. They're not the same. One small Pepcid AC acid controller does what even 2 Tagamet HB can't claim. Pepcid AC controls acid 9 hours through the night and has no drug interaction warnings. In fact, doctors recommend Pepcid AC more often than Tagamet HB. But don't take my word for it. Ask your doctor or pharmacist. New Pepcid AC, the strongest, longest acid controller.
I'm Steve Dunn. Coming up on Channel 2 News at 6:30, why residents near Oregon's Detroit Dam are worried they won't be able to keep their heads above water. And see how women are bringing a touch of class to a sport that is no longer just for men. It's all next.
Finally, this evening, we pay our respects to one of the great American journalists who's had a great effect on the country. James Reston died last night. The New York Times hired Mr. Reston in London on September the 1st, 1939, the day the Germans marched into Poland. His career spanned half a century, most of it in Washington. What I try to do, he once said, is write a letter to a friend who doesn't have time to find out all the goofy things that go on here. For his entire career, James Scotty Reston banged away on a manual typewriter. What emerged made him the most influential journalist in the United States for many years. He was born in Scotland, thus Scotty. He loved the nation's capital, where he worked first as a reporter after World War II, and then as the leading columnist for the New York Times. Scotty Reston wrote about Washington as an insider. His access to the men who wielded power and those who wished to do so was extraordinary. Politicians trusted him, and because he was quintessentially fair and honest, his readers trusted him. Like so many Scots, he loved golf. He was a sports writer straight out of school.
At the end of the day, in sports writing, you know who has won. Covering foreign policy, you have to wait 25 years to find out how it comes out.
Reston's column, Washington, ran 3 times a week from 1953 until the last one in 1987. He never missed a column or a deadline. He died of cancer, and he was 86. Johnny Apple, who is the Washington bureau chief for the New York Times now, wrote Reston's obituary for the Times today, and he ended, as we do, with an observation from Reston in a 1980 column welcoming his grandson to the human race. "Stick with the optimists," he wrote to the newborn boy. "It's going to be tough enough, even if they're right." That is our report on World News Tonight. Don't forget Nightline later. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Thursday, the commish tracks a serial killer who's a mistress of disguise. Let's find this woman. Can Tony stop this masked murderer? An all-new commish, then. Spencer and Hawk are back, up against a small town hiding a dirty secret.
I hear there's a lot of drugs in town. Cocaine.
Spencer, Pale Kings and Princes, after the commish, Thursday on ABC.